Hello everyone. Just let everyone join. Hi. Hello. Hi everyone. So just while everyone joins, I just wanted to, firstly say that I'm doing this live stream just to, help educate myself. And while I'm, educating myself, I thought, it'd be best to do this on here to help maybe educate you guys as well that are watching. So I'm gonna do it with my good friend Carlos, who is such an amazing human being, and I just wanted to amplify his voice and just kind of teach you guys. So I hope that this helps and helps you understand. Thank you for joining to watch. So yeah, I don't know if he's on yet. Let me see. He is. Let's see. Waiting.
Yes.
My man,
How's
how are you
how's it
doing?
going, friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So, how's
Thanks
your
so
evening?
much.
How's your evening shaping up over there?
Good. I just had dinner about half an hour ago.
Okay, okay,
Get some
okay.
fueling.
We
Yeah,
we just we just got done with our late breakfast, so
nice.
we're right here.
What time is it there?
It is 1 in the afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, 1 p.m.
Nice time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, just me and Carlos. Should we say how we know each other? Um,
I think we
how
should.
we met through social media.
We
Um,
should. Would you like me to give the
I feel like you should.
story, or you?
You're such a good storyteller. I'll let you say.
Okay, so back in November, just so you guys know how Blake and I became friends, I actually, listen, I'm a 40-something-year-old man living in America, and my daughter, who's 17 at the time, was a big New Hope Club fan, and she's always listening to the music, and posters are on the wall, and all the things that a good 17-year-old should be doing. And she happened to get ill, and we had to rush her to the hospital, and we spent 21 days at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in the hospital, where she was fighting a disease called histoplasmosis, and she was in terrible pain. It was the worst moment of our family's life. But like really early into the hospital visit, I had I noticed that she had taken, or she'd asked us to take her New Hope Club posters from a room at home and put them on the hospital walls. And so as every day I'd walk in, and I'm like, who is this guy that she's got a poster of? She actually had like cut herself out of a picture and put her next to you in one of them. And I'm like, who is this guy? And everyone's like, that's Blake from New Hope Club. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I just started thinking, I was like, I mean, he looks like a nice guy. And so I started following you on Instagram, and I just reached out to you and just said, Blake, it would mean the world to my daughter if you could just say hi. Now, I thought that you were just going to literally DM me, hi, exclamation point. And listen, if that's all you would have done, it would have made her year. Like, she would have been freaked out that you even read my DM. Well, little did I know, you're like, oh, absolutely. What can I do? And through our conversations, I started to see the empathy and the compassion that is inside of you. And man, you ended up sending the most beautiful, heartfelt a video. You were on stage sound checking, I think in Indonesia, and it
Yeah.
was perfect. And so I honestly, I think people can go back, if they look at the Sohela Hospital stories in my highlight, you can actually find this moment. But I actually filmed myself taking the video into Sohela while she was in the hospital bed. She was in, again, massive pain. And I have a friend of mine named Blake Bergstrom, and I said, hey, Blake has a message for you. And so she was like, oh, that's nice. But she doesn't want her dad's friends. She's like, that's kind of cute. So I played it for her. And so my friend Blake was like, so Halo, we love you, but you know what? I know that I'm probably not your favorite Blake in the world. I know there's another Blake. And so I edited the video to where your video popped on right after that. And her face was, I mean, she's shaking, she's crying in the hospital bed. And so it made her month. Well, honestly, probably still made her year. We're 6 months later, she still talks about it. But all of that to say is that I saw compassion in you and I saw grace in you. And then you kind of followed me, and then we just kind of kept in touch, kept talking.
We did the podcast as well, not that long ago.
We did a podcast interview for my podcast. That's coming out soon, not coming out yet. So we've just kind of continued in relationship and conversation. And then so, you know, what's cool about this is that now I'm able to, you kind of poured into my life, and you were available to help a season of maybe hurt and pain in my life. Now I love the opportunity to be able to pour back into yours and into your fan base and your platform, and just help people maybe understand how to move forward when it comes to eradicating not only racism in the United States of America, but where you're at all over the place. So anyway, that's a little bit of story of mine and Blake's friendship.
Yeah, man. Yes, it was that was honestly, it was so honestly to see your reaction, and just that was like such an amazing feeling on my end. Just, like, I don't know, it was so beautiful, and your family was so nice. Like, oh yeah, you know, on your story, and they're just such a perfect family. Like, I know it's like I can't say that, but it just are so.
Well, listen, I know there's no such thing as a perfect family, but mine is pretty close to it. I love just our dynamic and the way that, you know, the way that our kids have been. Just who they are, you know, it's a lot of fun. My wife, and you know, and that's what I do on my platform, is I share a lot of just kind of my life, you know, trips that we take and all those things. So it's been pretty, you know, a heartwarming platform. But I would definitely say the last week it shifted to a space where I'm able to talk about some things that maybe I don't normally talk about, but in a place that maybe my white brothers and sisters is a safe place for them to maybe ask questions that they're scared to ask out loud.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I feel like we should, you know, move on with the few questions, you know, about the whole situation. I think the first thing I wanted to really ask you about, I know we touched on it yesterday on the phone when we spoke, but the whole, you know, saying, you know, a person saying that they're not racist and being anti-racist, and the difference between the two. I think it's obviously such a big thing, and how everyone needs to be anti-racist and not say, and just say, oh, I'm not racist, just isn't enough, right, you know, anymore. So
yeah,
could, you know,
speak into that. Yeah, you know, so I think that maybe, you know, in the 80s and in the 90s, people, there was a big push to be colorblind. So like my parents' generation, there was a lot of oh, I don't see color, you know, I just see the human race. And although I understand the heart of what people mean when they're trying to say that, we're now in 2020 when actually being colorblind is the complete opposite of what you should be. I'm actually asking people to not be colorblind, but to please see my color. Please see the color of your friends. Please see black people. Please see white people's color. You know, brown people's. Please see black people's color. And so we need to actually see color. Now, I say that leading up to the point of so many people for so long have just been thought that it's okay to just be not racist, right? So if someone's like, you know, oh, that's such a racist thing that person did. Well, yeah, I'm not racist. Like, I'm not racist. And although, again, that's something that I can appreciate the idea behind, it's no longer good enough in 2020 to be not racist. So if you have family members, if you have friends, if you yourself say things like, I'm not racist, I'm here to tell you, I appreciate that you're not racist, but being not racist does nothing to eradicate racism. So suddenly what we have to do is we have to go move from a racist to not racist to being anti-racist. So the anti-racist piece is the piece that we've been talking about a little bit. In order for somebody to be anti-racist, they've got to push and use activism against systems and structures that are keeping racist systems and policies in place. So if you want to be anti-racist, You actually have to actively push anti-racist policies and ideas. So now the definition of a racist, and this is something that I think is very important. The definition of a racist is somebody that agrees with, through their action or inaction, racist policies or ideas. Now, there's a very important point that I need to make here. I said action or inaction. So suddenly what that does, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because suddenly it makes not acting a racist thing. Yeah. So suddenly when you don't act anymore, your inaction is doing nothing to eradicate racism. So if the definition of a racist is somebody through their action or inaction is propelling a racist idea or system, suddenly not being racist isn't good enough anymore. You understand? And so now you have to be anti-racist. So what does an anti-racist do? An anti-racist through their action, not inaction, an anti-racist through their action is helping to destroy racist systems and ideas. And so suddenly, this is why, your platform is so huge. As I'm watching you on Twitter and on your feed, you're being active in destroying racism. So suddenly staying silent isn't good enough. Being not racist isn't good enough. You have to actively pursue it. And that activism is going to look different for everybody. Okay, so not everybody is going to, I would even say, don't shame your white friends who haven't put anything up on their Instagram feed. What I would say is just make sure to ask them, what conversations are you having with people to make sure that you are promoting and accelerating an anti-racist idea. Most of the work that's going to be done here isn't going to be on Instagram. It's going to be in those small conversations with your parents, with your grandparents, with your uncles, with your friends who believe in racist ideas. And suddenly you speaking to those things is going to be way harder, trust me, than putting a black square on your Instagram page. So that's where the work's going to happen, is in your homes, in your community, in the much smaller circles. If we can get those smaller circles to break with racism, suddenly it's going to be accelerated in our world.
Amazing. Thanks for saying. So, what would you say, is, if on social media, if people want to, try and spread their word on social media, what would you say is the best way for them to be anti-racist?
Yeah.
Would you say it's doing petitions and, all that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I think petitions, what you're doing right now, already you've raised $332 in, just a few minutes for nonprofits that are going to fight against racism. So sign petitions, nonprofits. If you're in America, again, I don't know how the government system works where you're at, but we have access as citizens to call our government leaders. And so if you have access to call your government leaders, email your government leaders, and make sure that the systems and the structures that are in place are not oppressing a certain race. That's what we need to be doing. And so I think, yes, on social media, online, you can definitely do things. We're seeing, yesterday was amazing as I'm scrolling through my feed. It was just black squares. So what that did for me is it showed solidarity. And I think that's a great first step, but that can't be the only thing you do. You've got to take a deeper look. I'd love to speak for a second into racism versus racial bias. Okay. I think
this on your story yesterday and I found it.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of people, they get offended right away when they're like, listen, I'm not racist, and because it's offensive, we should remove the slur from it. I think that, again, racist, if we can redefine it and not make it a slur, because right now, if someone says you're racist, that's saying the worst thing ever towards you. If we can remove the slur and suddenly say that racist isn't somebody that somebody is, racist is something that somebody does. So what that does is it removes the identity from a human and suddenly places that identity on the action of a human. Now, suddenly I think we're in a safer place we can talk. Racism is elevating your race above another's. Racial bias is placing something you believe on another race. We all, every single one of us, every single person watching this have racial bias. The most perfect human being on the planet has racial bias. What we've got to do is we've got to lessen that racial bias. When I talk about that, again, I'm coming from America. I'm in the South, and I use this example. In the South, the South was built on the backs of slavery, right? So like this is like kind of the part of America that I live in. And so there's a lot of biasness that I feel when I'm around people in the South that I know came from a lineage or a family that owned slaves. So what I do is I have a racial bias to automatically assume that they're racist. But the truth is, they're not, or at least the ones I know, they're not. But my racial biasness, I have to fight against because I will put that on top of some of my white friends. So that's all I'm saying is we all have to admit our racial biasness. And when we can admit that, I think it accelerates the conversation forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was I was going to ask you something. Yeah, that was it. So, you know, obviously you were saying, you know, doing the, you know, saying having conversations is probably the most important thing. And I've literally been having conversations with my family about it all and everything. And, you know, from what I've learned before this, you know, just from the internet, or even on a phone call yesterday briefly. But, you know, obviously right now it's, you know, there's a lot of hashtags and there's a lot of posting about it. And, you know, when it sort of does, you know, fade out a bit and not everyone's, you know, talking about it as much, what would you say is like, how, you know, when it's not the main topic of everything, how can we keep driving that through, you know, and keep raising our voice about it?
Yeah, this is what I would say. I really challenge a lot of my white friends that are out there, when the news cycle ends, because the news cycle will end, the protests will end, I would set a reminder on your phone weekly to speak out online and say something about it. I'm talking about weekly. This doesn't need to be just something we yell about when we see it happen. Because, you know, right now, a lot of people are like, I can't believe this is America. I can't believe this is the America that I live in. And I'm like, I can. You just haven't seen it. This has been here the whole time. We just haven't seen it. So what you need to know is the lid has been pulled back on racism in America, okay? And what's going to happen is the lid is going to be put back over it. But the racism in America is still going to be here. So we have a responsibility when the hashtags fade away and when the conversations on the news channels and outlets end, to continue on a weekly basis to open it up. You know, America is, I mean, we're still a baby. Like, we're just a baby little country, right? Like, our oldest buildings here in America, you know, are like new buildings in England. You know, like we're just we're still a baby. And so many people are like, you know, I can't believe this is happening in America. And I'm like, we're not even one generation away from like when Black people were forced to sit in the back of the bus. My dad, who's alive still, couldn't drink out of a water fountain that said whites on it and black. Like, this is very, very palpable history that we're walking in. So people that are saying like, oh, you know, this happened to Blacks, their ancestors. No, like, this stuff was happening. Like we can still touch people that are alive today that had to deal with that stuff. So just to understand that and how necessary it's going to be for us to keep peeling it back. You know, don't let a week go by without you saying something. I'm not saying that you've got to like make a deep, profound post, but just say something. Or even if you're not going to say something on social media, don't let a week go by without reaching to your Black friends and saying, hey, listen, I know the news cycle is fade, but what can I do to support you best right now? And so I think just being intentional, and honestly, it's going to take some people setting reminders, putting it on their calendar every Tuesday for the next 6 months. I'm going to say something and let people know that Black lives still matter, even though the hashtag has gone away.
Yeah. I'm going to maybe ask the fans and the viewers that are watching to just send in some questions if they've got any questions that they want to ask, or they're not, you know, topics they're not, you know, sure about and want to learn about. So guys, if you have any questions, please send them in to me right now. I'm going to have a look if there is any.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now.
And guys, don't forget to keep clicking donate. While you're looking for that question, can you tell them what the ACLU is that they're donating to?
Yeah, so I was looking online at just like the best thing that I could find for the best charity and fundraiser and whatever. So I just saw that they did all kinds of things about Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ community, and all those kind of things. And they're just amazing. They really raised the voice for so many important things. And I just thought
good.
In this time right now, I just thought they covered a lot of areas.
So proud of you, man. That's so good.
Thank you, man. Okay. What do you suggest for starting conversations with family members?
That's great. Yeah. You know, I I would definitely say that to first remember that the conversations you have with family members are, they're still going to be your family after the conversation. So you have to remember how important it is that the relationship must be much more important than the point you're trying to prove. Okay. This isn't going to be for many family members. This isn't going to be a one conversation and you've changed their mind kind of deal. Like it's not. It's going to be a seed. My wife's a gardener, and one of the things that frustrates me about gardening is that it takes so long to reap the harvest, right? Like I'm an instantaneous guy. Amazon Prime now, I can order it in my phone, and 2 hours later it'll be at my doorstep. I've got it. So many of us want our relationships with our parents and them understanding racism to look like that. But the truth is, it's just like a garden. She puts this little seed in every day. She goes out and she waters it. And then she gets excited when she sees the first little sprout. And I'm like, you're excited about that? It's been 2 weeks. She's like, yes. And then finally, after a month, we finally have a carrot. And we pull that one carrot out and we put the carrot in our soup. And it's like, this takes a long time. So when you approach your family members, just realize that you're not trying to change their mind in one conversation. You're just a gardener. You're just slowly but surely watering. And I promise you, if you in care and love and support for them, and you do it in love and have the conversation in love, then there'll be way more highly likely to turn into whatever it is that you're trying to water on top of them. So go into the conversation knowing that relationship is more important than the outcome of that conversation, but knowing that the outcome of that conversation may come months or years from now. I know so many of my friends that I've been having this conversation with for a decade, 10 years, who just this week have texted me, I finally get it. 10 years. And this week they finally get it. And I'm just like, okay. So I've been pouring a little bit of water every single day. So I would just say approach your conversations with your family that way.
Yeah. Do you have any like conversations that you've not, like things you want to talk about that you really touched upon your stories yet that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Is there many, like, I mean, I'm sure there's so many things, but what if there's really important ones that you're right now really wanting to talk about?
Yeah. I think a lot of the, I haven't addressed this one yet. And a lot of people, and this may be more of an American specific conversation, but that you'll hear, a lot of the conversation that people want to have is, why are people only screaming when a white police officer kills a black man instead of screaming when black men kill black men? Because statistics show in America that 90% of black men that are killed by other black men. So what ends up happening is people take that statistic and they say, you're screaming about the black men that are killed by white police officers, but you're not screaming about black men killing black men. Black on black crime is so, and so this is like it's a talking point for a lot of people that want to argue. And so here's what I would say. Yes, like 90% of black men are killed by black men, but 87% of white men are killed by white men, because crime has a tendency to happen inside of your own local community. So that being said, we can throw that statistic out the window. We know black people kill black people. But the way that America was built on the foundation of slavery, systems in place to make sure that black people stay together in communities together, those have turned into the ghettos and into the cities like Chicago. And there's poverty that are in these cities. Black people can't get jobs that their white counterparts can get. They've got to take public transportation. And when there's a high level of poverty, that means crime is going to explode. And suddenly when crime explodes, that means policing efforts towards black people is going to be a lot stronger. And so what you can see is that the systems, the racist systems that have been put in place in America are actually the things that are causing black on black crime to explode. So you can't remove one without talking about the other. All of this is systematic. All of this racism that we're talking about, we're not just talking about racist people and individuals. Like that's one thing that I know we need to fix, but the bigger thing we need to fix are the systems that are keeping black people oppressed. And so black on black crime, I promise you, will go down when the system and the policing system and all of those things that were built on, again, like I said, we're not even one generation removed from like the Jim Crow laws in America, where black people had to use black restrooms and white people, and police had to enforce those rules. And so there's got to be structural changes in the government, which is why it's so important, not only in America, but you know, where you're at in the UK, all around in South Africa, all around, that we're voting for people that aren't just going to say racism is bad, but we're actually using our vote and our strength to propel people up in government that are going to actively break the systems and fix the systems that we've been built upon, and that have been built upon oppressing black people. So the black on black crime point, I guess I would say, is way more nuanced and is a bigger conversation than just showing a statistic that 90% of black men are killed by black people. That, again, like that statistic can be broken down really quickly, like I just did. There's a lot more to the conversation. I am going to talk about this on Instagram, on a story that I put on my feed this week. That'll be a little bit more nuanced than what I just told you, but I definitely want people to know that the reason black on black crime is high isn't because blacks are just savages that are just killing each other and just angry. It's because of the systems that have been put in place that only afford them an opportunity to advance in their life the way they see it by committing a crime. That's a lot. I know that's a lot, but
no, yeah, it's very interesting, and you know,
yeah.
So I think we've got some more questions coming in now. Just trying to go through. Okay, I did want to talk about this. I can bring it up on you can receive questions, but you can't show them when you're doing a fundraiser. Okay. Basically, they were asking, you know, what's your opinion on, you know, the police? And I know a lot of people are saying that, you know, like I've got an uncle that's a policeman, and obviously I know that he is anti-racist, would never, you know. Yeah. So, but obviously, what's your opinions on the whole police system?
Police. Yeah. I can't imagine any country on the planet, existing without the integrity of police. There is law and order that needs to be kept in order for countries to stay safe and cities to stay safe. I have a lot of very close friends that are police officers. I'm a big fan of police officers. Police are not the problem. Racist police officers or police officers with strong racial bias are the problem. And so what we've got to do is eradicate our police system, eradicate those out of our police system that are racist or have strong racial bias. You know, one of the comparisons that people say all the time is, well, most police officers are good. You know, there's just a few bad ones that are in there. And they kind of use that as an excuse. And I think to myself, policing shouldn't get like an excuse for just having a few bad ones in there, because, you know, I think there was a Chris Rock, a comedian here in America, once said that pilots don't get that same judgment. Like, you can't have a few bad pilots in working for an airline, because if you have one bad pilot and that plane goes down, then there's no comparison, right? Like you either have to have them like be 100% safe, or they can't be a pilot. Again, things are always going to be more complicated because there's going to be way more police officers than there are pilots. But that's the level I think that we need to raise our standards of policing to, because there's police officers that are racist, that are murdering black people, innocent, unarmed black people. And those are the ones we've got to get out. Do I love and support my police officer brothers and sisters that are helping on a daily basis eradicate racism and keep my family safe? Yes, I'm so grateful for them. But that doesn't mean that I can't still scream out that we need to get rid of racist police officers while simultaneously holding the opinion that I believe police officers are mostly good. So, you know, that's my viewpoint. Again, this goes back to the fact that in America, our policing systems are still babies. They're still infants. They're still only, you know, even the ones that are 50 years old are outdated because of what America has gone through in the history that we have. So we need to go back and look at systems and strategies that police have been using for 50 years. And if they haven't changed that much, we have to continue to shape them and continue to change them. And I'm seeing a lot of police officers in America this week speaking out. And man, if there has been something that I think can be healing, is for more and more police officers to not be defensive, but to speak out against racism. It's a beautiful thing. It's a scary thing. There's police officers that are being killed in riots that are happening. This is disgusting. This is horrible. That stuff is not, that's not the way. But what I do believe is that our systems and police systems and structures need to continue to be reevaluated, not just once, but constantly reevaluated. There needs to be more racial bias training that happens. I think it needs to be mandatory for every police officer to go through racial bias training to lower their biasness. And yeah, get the bad ones out, but let's keep the good ones.
Thank you. I did see a comment that was, asking about reverse racism. And I know it's like a topic that quite a lot of white people have talked about in the past. If you just want to talk, just slightly.
Yeah. So again, if we're using my same definition of racism, I think that immediately unravels that statement. Racism, the way that I'm defining racism, is when you are agreeing or advancing a racist system or idea with your action or inaction. That's what a racist is. Now, when we begin to see racist systems in America or in the UK or wherever that are advancing racist ideas or policies, okay, I'm not quite sure there's any policy in America that that is rapidly accelerating Black people and demeaning white people. So like it's hard to say that there's reverse racism when it comes to that. Is there reverse racial biasness? Absolutely. I don't think there's a reverse racial biasness. I think everybody, as I said, has racial biasness. Are there some Black people that hate white people? Okay, so this may be where the conversation is coming from. Like, absolutely, yes. Are there Black people that think all white people should die? I'm sure. I don't know of any of them, but there probably are. Are those Black people the ones that we need to be listening to and promoting their agenda? Absolutely not. Okay, so there is 100% reverse racism when it comes to racist ideas, but when it comes to racist policies, there's definitely not near as much reverse racism. So yeah, I speak to that, and I understand the heart of where that question is coming from, because I've got a lot of white friends that are like, oh man, Black people, they're constantly yelling at me, they don't like me, and again, everything has to be viewed in a historical umbrella with a historical context. A lot of anger that's coming out of the Black community has been pent up. One of the questions that I've actually seen on here is, what about the rioting? What do you think about peaceful protests versus rioting? Because there's a lot of rioting that's happening in America. And I do have an IGTV video that if people want to go back and watch, where I describe why riots happened initially. What the pressure cooker has been kind of keeping people for a long time, and then when that pressure cooker explodes, that's when riot happens. Rioting is normally going to be the voice of the person that has not been heard. Do I agree with the rioting? Absolutely not. I don't think there's any place for rioting. Do I understand the rioting? Absolutely. I've seen people who have. I mean, it's just like a little toddler, right? Like, if a toddler needs something from you, okay, not saying that rioters are toddlers, but just go with me for a second. When a toddler, a little 3-year-old needs something, they'll come and ask you. If you don't listen, they'll start yanking on your arm. If you don't listen, they'll start yelling at you. And then if you still don't listen, a tantrum will explode. This is, we can look and say, well, America's not a toddler, or people aren't toddlers, but that's a universal principle that happens for anybody. It happens for grown adults and everything. That's where these riots are coming from. Now, the riots that are taking place now, if you're in America, have been taken over by agitators. So there's people that have come in and they're piggybacking on a good cause of a protester, and then they're breaking things again. I want to publicly denounce that. I don't believe that that's right. And I believe that our police officers are putting their lives on the line. But what we can't do is shush the voices of peaceful protesters, fire tear gas canisters at peaceful protesters. And again, this gets really messy. Because it's not like there's this one police officer. Like you've got 500 police officers with 500 different ideas and 500 different ways that they were raised and 500 different ways that they view people. And so it's never going to be a perfect system. But I think the more we have conversations about this, the more that we'll understand what rioting is and why rioting is happening. Again,
Yeah.
not promoting it, but understanding why it's happening.
Yeah. Is there, any like pages, like any Instagram pages or Twitter pages or books or films that you would recommend people to
Oh,
read,
yeah,
educate them further,
absolutely. Gosh, I wish I could remember them, off the top of my head. But what I'll promise to do is maybe to put a story slide up on my story right after this, where I link many of the voices that I think will help your education and help you accelerate your learning on what it's going to look like for each and every one of you guys to rid the racism in your own community. Brittany Packayette, I think I may be saying her name wrong, is probably the strongest voice right now that I'm following. She is strong, she is thorough, but she's not violent, she's not promoting violence, but she is definitely helping people understand why the violence is there. And she's just probably my favorite person to follow when it comes to this. And yeah, I'll make sure to put up a story slide with those people on there so that everybody gets a hold of that. And then yeah, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of resources. The Hate U Give is a great movie that came out a couple years ago. And again, that shows a teenager's view as to the systematic racism that's happening in America. And I ask everybody to watch that. It's a love story, but it's also filled with ways that you can help stand up against what's happening in our communities today. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Have you seen any other questions on here that you've wanted to answer?
No, but I mean, I'm just seeing comments. Someone said here in Argentina, it's happening similar, but with Aborigines. Again, racism racism stems from. I'd like to say this. Honestly, I think so people can understand. Racism, when somebody is racist, all they're doing is they're medicating a wound in their heart. Okay, so what we have to understand, and this is why I actually can have conversations with racist people, because I understand that anyone that is racist and is elevating themselves above another race is strictly doing so because they've got a wound somewhere in their heart, or they've got trauma in their lives that they're trying to feel better. And so just like an alcoholic would drink alcohol in excess in order to numb the pain of some sort of trauma in their life, a racist person is going to act out racistly in order to numb the pain in the trauma in their life. And what we need to do is realize that racism in and of itself is actually just a reaction of a wound. And so that's why I can look at a racist person and have a conversation with them, because I look at them like, I want to help you. And let's actually not talk about the racism. Let's try to get a little deeper. And let's get to what happened when you were 10 years old that caused you to have a wound that suddenly you need to medicate with racism. Racism is your medicine that makes you feel better. If we can understand that racism is a matter of the heart, that is just medicating a wound, man, I'm telling you, I think, Blake, that we can start looking at racist people, not with just anger, but with a sense of pity and a sense of, you know what, I think maybe they can be helped. I've seen it myself. I've seen where compassion can come along the side of somebody with racist tendencies. And when we heal their wound, suddenly the racism goes away because their heart has been fixed. And so I just want people to understand that, again, that just because somebody holds a strong racial bias doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them a wounded person. And if we can find how we can help their wound out and speak into that wound, that's going to help accelerate their healing. So that's the last little thing that I wanted to kind of say when it came to some of this stuff. So
amazing. Thank you. I'm learning so much just from I'm so glad we did this on here so we could actually let everyone else into the conversation.
No, man, you're doing such good work, very important work. And it's crazy. God gave you a gift for music, and you're using that gift to, again, help other people heal. And so Just thank you so much for using your platform.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anything else you have wanted to say. I don't know. They kind of run out of the live streams after a certain amount of time, so I don't want to like lose anything that we've said.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to like sort of end it on, or if there's anything you've seen that you haven't touched on, or just anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just think that that again, everybody needs to know that we all have a part to play. Everybody. If you were thinking to yourself, I just nobody follows me, I don't have a big platform, you are the ones that are going to move the needle forward in ending racism on our planet. Not just Blake's or me or people with bigger platforms. It's going to take way more than big conversations. Racism will be eradicated through small conversations. It won't be eradicated through big conversations. It won't be eradicated through big government. It won't be eradicated through just voting another president or prime minister into office. What racism is going to be eradicated by the small conversations around your dinner table, by the small conversations in your friend groups when you're going on holiday. Those are the places where we're going to eradicate racism. So I challenge everybody to look at the small conversations this week. And if you see or hear anything that may promote a racist idea or policy, to speak out. That's way harder than it sounds. But when you do it, you may lose a friend or two, but I'm telling you, you're going to gain the world, because the world is waiting for everybody to start having these crucial conversations. I almost tear up thinking about it. Imagine if just the people that have watched this do that this week, that will send a ripple effect around our planet that I believe will get us to the place we want to go.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also thank you to everyone that's donated as well to the ACLU.
Yeah.
As well. I've not looked at that. I didn't see it at the bottom there, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's amazing. So thank you so much. It's just been so amazing to talk to you, and obviously, I think it's just obviously a time that everyone just needs to do their bit and keep and more basically.
And more, and don't grow weary. It can be easy to get fatigued when it comes to this, but please let me let you know that your Black brothers and sisters have been fatigued for a long time. And if you're fatigued after 7 days of talking about this, just imagine how fatigued we are. And that should rise up some more strength inside of you to continue the conversation and not let the conversation go away when you're just kind of over it and you're like, I just wish we could get back to normal life. So do I. But we just aren't afforded that opportunity right now. So let's keep talking, keep pushing the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Carlos. I'll speak soon, I'm sure, anyway.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, friend, so much.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please share this to people that want to learn more. Please. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Lots of love.